How does a single blank line on a crumpled piece of paper eventually condemn millions of innocent souls to the gas chambers? This is the paradox of blood. We look for the monster in the shouting tyrant, but the seed was planted decades earlier, not in a speech, but in a silence. It begins with a peasant woman, a coal barn, and a secret that history has never fully solved. It is June 1837. The location is Strones, a tiny impoverished hamlet in the Waldviertel region of Austria. The landscape here is harsh, unforgiving, defined by dense forests and rocky soil that breaks the backs of the farmers who till it. In house number 13, a 41-year-old peasant woman named Maria Schickelgruber is in labor. There is no doctor. There is no comfort. There is only the biting reality of rural poverty. When the child cries out for the first time, he enters a world that has already judged him. The priest opens the baptismal registry of the Dollersheim parish. He dips his pen in black ink. He writes the child's name, Alois. He writes the mother's name, Maria Schickelgruber. But when his hand hovers over the column for father, the pen stops. The ink dries. He leaves it blank. Illegitimate. In the strict, suffocating atmosphere of Catholic Austria, this blank space is not just a clerical detail. It is a social death sentence. Alois is born a bastard. He carries the name of his mother, Schickelgruber. From his very first breath, he is marked as incomplete, a second-class citizen in a rigid hierarchy where lineage determines worth. Maria is a strong woman, a peasant who works the land, but she carries the heavy burden of shame. She refuses to name the father. Is it the wandering miller Johann Georg Hiedler? Is it a wealthy neighbor? The silence is absolute. Alois grows up in this shadow. He walks the muddy roads of Strones, looking at the other boys who have fathers, who have names, who have a place in the order of things. He has nothing but a mother who loves him and a village that whispers behind his back. Psychologically, this is the primal wound. The child internalizes the idea that his very existence is a mistake. He feels the chaotic shame of his origin, and in defense, his mind begins to construct a fortress. If society says he is nothing because he has no father, he will force society to respect him through other means. He will crave order. He will crave titles. He will crave the uniform. This insecurity regarding bloodlines is the supreme irony of the 20th century. The man who would later demand the absolute racial purity of an entire continent, Adolf Hitler, was the son of a man who did not know his own father. The architect of the master race was only one generation removed from a blank space on a baptismal certificate. The obsession with Aryan perfection was not a scientific conviction. It was a psychological compensation for a grandfather who never existed. Alois Schickelgruber spends his first 5 years in this poverty, fatherless and stigmatized. But the mechanism of evil is complex. It does not just require shame, it requires abandonment. Soon Maria will marry, and the boy will be sent away. The lesson is being carved into his psyche with a rusted blade. Love is temporary, but power is permanent. The nameless boy of Strones is about to learn that to survive in this world, one must stop being a victim and become a tyrant. How does a peasant boy erase the stain of his birth? He does not scrub it away. He covers it with the emperor's cloth. To understand the rigidity of the Third Reich, we must first look at the starched collar of an Austrian customs official in the mid-19th century. The chaos of the barn is replaced by the absolute unyielding geometry of the border post. It is 1855. Alois is 18 years old. He steps out of the shadows of the Waldviertel and into the Imperial Customs Service. He is no longer the bastard child of a poor woman. He is a servant of the Habsburg monarchy. He puts on the uniform. He buttons the tunic with its double row of brass buttons. He adjusts the cap with the imperial insignia. In the mirror, the illegitimate boy vanishes. In his place stands a man of authority. This transformation is psychological armor. For a man like Alois, the uniform is not just clothing, it is a second skin. It provides what his childhood denied him: structure, hierarchy, and respect. He becomes obsessed with the minutiae of bureaucracy. Every stamp must be perfectly aligned. Every form must be filled out with pedantic accuracy. He patrols the borders, hunting smugglers with a zealous intensity. He is rigid, humorless, and vain. He loves to be photographed in his uniform, posing with a stern, imperious gaze, a gaze that his son will practice in front of mirrors decades later. But the uniform only controls the outside. Inside, the shame and the rage still burn. To extinguish this fire, Alois finds a new master: the bottle. The culture of the Austrian customs service revolves around the Gasthaus, the tavern. After long shifts in the biting cold, the officials gather to drink. Alois drinks heavily. The alcohol loosens the tight control of the bureaucrat and releases the bully. He sits at the tavern tables, surrounded by smoke and the clinking of glass steins. Here, he demands the same respect he gets at the border crossing. He pontificates on politics, on the state of the empire dominating the conversation. He is Herr Official. But when the wine turns sour in his stomach, the dignified civil servant dissolves. He becomes irritable, aggressive, and prone to sudden outbursts of temper. This duality creates a terrifying domestic atmosphere. By day, he is the model of Austrian discipline, a man who upholds the law. By night, he is a volatile drunkard. This is the blueprint of the father figure Adolf Hitler will inherit. A father who is simultaneously a godlike authority figure, representing the state, and a terrifying, unpredictable drunkard. Adolf Hitler later claims in Mein Kampf that he respected his father but did not love him. This lack of love is rooted here, in the cold perfection of the uniform and the warm stench of the tavern. Alois teaches his son that authority is about appearance and force, not morality. The Führer principle is not invented in the beer halls of Munich. It is learned in the silence of a home where a father's mood swings like a pendulum between the strict official and the angry drunk. The glass is raised, the stamp is pressed, and the lesson is taught. Order is maintained through fear. A dead man cannot speak, but with enough manipulation, he can be made to lie. In 1876, a bureaucratic surgery is performed that will change the sound of history forever. The name Schicklgruber is clumsy, peasant-like, and comical. It lacks the sharp cutting edge of a tyrant's title. Fate intervenes through a forgery. It is a cold day in the parish of Dullersheim. Alois is now 39 years old, a successful customs officer, but he still carries the illegitimate stain of his mother's name. He stands before the parish priest, Father Zonschirm. He is not alone. He is accompanied by 3 men. The most important is Johann Nepomuk Hiedler, the man who raised him, his uncle. The other 2 are illiterate witnesses. They have come to perform a resurrection. They tell the priest a story that Johann Georg Hiedler, the man who married Alois's mother and then vanished into poverty, was the biological father. There is just one problem. Johann Georg has been dead for 19 years. He cannot confirm this. He cannot deny it. The witnesses nod. The uncle insists. The priest, perhaps tired or perhaps paid, opens the old baptismal book from 1837. He finds the entry for Alois Schicklgruber. He crosses out illegitimate. In the empty box for father, he writes Jörg Hiedler. In the margins, he adds a note that the father has legitimized the child. And then, a fatal clerical error, or perhaps a choice, occurs. The name is not spelled Hiedler. It is written as Hitler. In that scratching of a pen, Alois Schicklgruber dies. Alois Hitler is born. This moment is critical. Historians often speculate that if this name change had not occurred, the Third Reich might never have risen. Can you imagine a stadium of thousands chanting, Heil Schicklgruber? The absurdity of the name would have punctured the myth of the Superman. But Hitler is different. It is short. It is hard. It sounds like a whip cracking. But beneath the new name lies a terrifying psychological fracture, the blood paradox. By legitimizing himself with a dead man, Alois buries the truth forever. Who was his real father? Was it actually the uncle, Johann Nepomuk, who arranged this deception to give Alois an inheritance? Or was it, as whispered rumors would later suggest, a Jewish man named Frankenberger, for whom his mother worked as a maid? This uncertainty becomes the radioactive core of Adolf Hitler's psychology, the man who demands that every German citizen prove their ancestry back to 1750 cannot prove his own. Grandfather. He lives in terror of his own blood. He hires the SS to investigate his family tree and then classifies the results as top secret. He destroys the village of Dollersheim, turning his father's birthplace into an artillery practice range, literally blasting his own origins off the map. The lie of 1876 teaches the future Führer a dangerous lesson. Truth is not what happened. Truth is what you can force the world to believe. The father invented a name. The son would invent a race. Both were built on a foundation of silence and forgery. A man who spends his life bowing to the emperor will often demand that others bow to him. When the uniform comes off, the power does not disappear. It concentrates. It retreats into the kitchen, the living room, and the terrifying silence of the dinner table. The borders of the Austrian Empire are vast, but the borders of the Hitler household are defined by the mood of one aging, frustrated man. It is the late 1890s. Alois Hitler is now in his 60s. He has retired from the customs service. The uniform is hung in the wardrobe, but the psychology of the official remains. He buys a farm, then sells it. He moves the family from Hafeld to Lambach, then to Leonding. He is restless. He is angry. The world no longer commands him, so he must find something else to command. He finds his son. The domestic dynamic is twisted. Alois's third wife, Clara Polzel, is 23 years younger than him. She is his niece. She calls him Uncle Alois even after they are married. She is a quiet, submissive woman who smothers her children with anxious love because she has already lost 3 of them to early graves. Adolf is the survivor. He is the center of her world, but he is the target of his father's. The house operates on a signal. Alois does not call his son by name. He puts 2 fingers to his lips and whistles. It is a sharp, piercing sound, the same command used for a dog. When the whistle cuts through the air, young Adolf must appear instantly. If he is slow, if he speaks back, if he shows a flicker of rebellion, the violence follows. This is not just discipline, it is displaced aggression. Alois is bitter about his aging, his loss of status, and his own hidden shame. He cannot strike the emperor. He cannot strike the government. So he strikes the boy. He uses a hippopotamus hide whip. The beatings are ritualistic. Adolf later recounts that he learned to stop crying, to count the blows, to stare at his father with a cold, dead defiance. He treats the pain as a contest of will. The psychological impact is catastrophic. The boy learns that the world is divided into 2 categories, the hammer and the anvil. You are either the one holding the whip or you are the one bleeding. There is no middle ground. There is no negotiation. At the dinner table, the silence is heavy. Alois reads the newspaper, smoking his pipe. The smoke fills the room. No one speaks until he speaks. He pontificates about politics, about the decay of the monarchy, about the stupidity of the locals. Adolf sits, listening, absorbing the rage but rejecting the authority. He begins to hate the bureaucracy his father loves. If Alois wants him to be a civil servant, Adolf will become an artist. Not out of passion for art, but out of pure, crystallized spite. Clara watches. She intervenes softly, trying to shield the boy, but her gentleness only amplifies the father's contempt. Adolf sees his mother as the symbol of Germany, loving, suffering, passive. He sees his father as the state, cruel, distant, inevitable. This binary worldview locks into place. The tyrant at the table is training the tyrant of the future. The boy is learning that mercy is a weakness, and terror is the only tool that guarantees respect. The tyranny of a man ends in a heartbeat, but the tyranny of a ghost lasts forever. On January 3, 1903, the pendulum of the Hitler household stops swinging. The violence, the shouting, the whistle, it all evaporates in the fumes of a morning glass of wine. It is 10 o'clock in the morning. Alois Hitler enters the Gasthaus Stiefler in Leonding. He is 65 years old. He orders his usual glass of red wine. He picks up a newspaper. The tavern is quiet. He takes a sip. Suddenly, the glass slips from his hand. It shatters on the floor. Alois collapses from a pleural hemorrhage. By the time the doctor arrives, the customs official is dead. He dies as he lived, in a tavern, demanding attention, leaving a mess for others to clean up. Adolf is 13 years old. When the news reaches the house, the atmosphere fractures. The god of his childhood is dead. Witnesses say the boy weeps uncontrollably at the coffin. This grief is real, but it is complex. It is the grief of a prisoner who has lost his jailer. The cage is open, but the bird does not know how to fly. Psychologically, this is the vacuum of authority. For 13 years, Adolf defined himself in opposition to his father. He fought against the civil service career. He fought against the discipline. Now the resistance is gone. Without the pressure of his father's boot on his neck, Adolf does not rise. He drifts. He fails his exams. He feigns illness. He wanders the streets of Linz, dressed like a dandy, carrying a cane, acting the part of a misunderstood genius. But the father is not truly gone. In psychoanalysis, this is the internalization of the superego. The external tyrant dies, but the internal tyrant wakes up. Adolf absorbs his father's rigidity, his explosive temper, and his obsession with pan-German politics. He begins to speak with the same dogmatic authority. The hatred for the Habsburg monarchy that Alois ranted about over dinner becomes the cornerstone of Adolf's ideology. The death of Alois removes the only force that could have grounded Adolf in reality. If Alois had lived, he might have beaten his son into a mediocre career as a clerk. History would have been boring. History would have been safe. Instead, the boy is left to his own dark fantasies, supported by a doting, overprotective mother. The blood paradox remains unresolved. The question of the grandfather remains a secret, and the rage that was once directed at a father is now slowly turning outward, looking for a new target. It will eventually find one in the entire world. The glass that shattered on the tavern floor in 1903 was the starting gun for the 20th century. The father fell, and the monster began to rise.